Do you hear that? Probably not, because that is the feeling of awesomeness if you have seen Hardcore Henry. At least if you were one of the people who saw Hardcore Henry that got it. There are apparently a lot of people who saw the movie who didn't, and I will be addressing them in this review. But first, I just want to share with you the awesome cinematic experience I had going and watching this film. I'm going to be keeping this review spoiler-free for those of you who haven't seen it yet, who do want to go see it. And at the very end of the review, I'm going to be talking about the criticism it is getting, so stick around for that. So first off, what I liked, what I didn't like about it. Well, how about we start with what I did not like about Hardcore Henry? It's really easy. There wasn't anything I didn't like about it. I loved this movie. I did go to the Ultimate Fan Experience, so I got to watch the Q&A with director Ila Naishuller and actor Sharlto Copley. I hope I'm saying those names right, guys. Please forgive me if I'm not. Movie was awesome, okay? Forgive me. For those of you who haven't seen the trailer for the movie yet or haven't read about it yet in the news, Hardcore Henry is just a balls-out action film told from the first-person perspective of a cyborg. Henry wakes up in a vat of viscous goo, not really sure who he is since he has amnesia, and he's introduced to his wife, who says, "Hi Henry, you don't know me, but we're married, we love each other." 5 minutes later, she's kidnapped by an evil villain with telekinesis and crazy eyes, and the rest of the movie is just insane thrill ride. So I want to talk about this movie's first-person perspective. I think that's probably where we need to begin, since that's really what defines it. This movie, nothing like it has been done before. This is not found footage, just to let you know. This is not a found footage movie. This is a action film told from the first-person perspective. This was a very dangerous movie to make. The director is from Russia, and he filmed an entire movie in Moscow, where apparently the rules on stunts and safety standards are kind of a little bit more lax there, so they could do a lot of this stuff really quickly. And more dangerously, in the Q&A, Sharlto actually says that these Russian stuntmen are like cowboys, but they're very professional. But if this movie was shot anywhere else, it would have taken like 3 times as long to get done. Kind of reminds me a lot, honestly, of the first Mad Max film with George Miller. And he has almost no budget. He's out in Australia, and he basically just asks all these crazy Australian biker dudes, who are in gangs, motorcycle gangs, like, "Hey, you want to be in a movie?" And they're like, "Hell yeah." So, they're totally cool with just doing all these insane stunts that were just super dangerous, but so awesome. So actually 12 guys play Henry. One of them being the director. He says he played Henry throughout all the safe scenes, and the 11 other guys were all stuntmen who were highly specialized in the stunts they pulled off for the film. I think it's important to note that this movie doesn't really use a lot of CGI. It's kind of a selling point for a lot of people because what you're seeing is real. CGI is used, and they said very little of it to kind of enhance a shot here and there, make it look better, but the rest of it is real. Henry jumping off a building is real. Henry throwing his head through a window and then jumping out the window is real. Henry getting on a helicopter and riding off into the sunset is real. And those are all things that you saw in the trailer, so I don't feel bad about talking about them here. The entire film was shot on GoPro cameras using a engineered rig, specially engineered rig for this movie, called what the stuntmen called the adventure mask, because it literally held the camera here. I loved what the director said about the GoPro cameras. He said, "Oh yeah, we used about 13 of them. They they hold up really well if you treat them gently." The joke being that they did not treat them gently. They said that no cameras fell off the rig, but they were punched off the rig. They were kicked off the rig. Hence, they needed 13 of them by the end of the film. But enough about how the movie was made. I think it's pretty obvious. Let's talk about this movie's concept, its story, its characters. I'm going to say a lot of things that most of the other critics are going to disagree with me on, which is why we're going to save them for later. I was sold on the concept of Hardcore Henry from the moment I saw the trailer, for a couple reasons. For one thing, just the title, Hardcore Henry. Okay, if this is a first-person shooter, video game-esque movie, you couldn't have gotten the title more correct. It's like a classic 90s first-person shooter, right? We had all those really iconic hardcore action characters. You know, we have Doom Guy, we have Duke Nukem, we have Lo Wang, we have Serious Sam, and now we have Hardcore Henry. He just fits right in perfectly. As somebody who grew up on those games, who also loves action movies, I guess you could say that I was basically their target demographic. Maybe, in fact, they were just making the movie for me. The point of this movie was not to just create a first-person shooter where the guy just goes around and just haphazardly, just violently just kills people. No, the whole point of this movie was to immerse the viewer into the story in a way that hadn't been done before, kind of like video games can do better than films. Henry wakes up, he has amnesia, he doesn't remember exactly who he is or what he is, and he's thrown into the story. So in a way, because you see things from his perspective and he's learning things, he's learning what's happening to him as it happens to him, the audience is the main character. The audience is the protagonist, exactly like we are in a video game, which is why video games work, because they're more immersive stories than films can be. Once again, I just want to drive home the point that this movie is not just a violent, mindless first-person shooter where a character you never see and never hear, you know, he doesn't speak, once again, the audience is Henry, just runs around just like killing people, slapping women, drinking booze, and just, you know, shooting people for the hell of it. No, that's not what it's about, and it kind of pisses me off that some people are going to paint it that way. There is a story here. There is character here, and you are the character. Once again, that's the point of the movie. That's the whole point of even creating a first-person shooter-esque movie, is you are Henry. That's why he doesn't speak. Henry doesn't need to be this super complex character with all this backstory that, like, we learn over, like, a 3.5 hour period. It doesn't need to be that way. Yeah, he's a simple character, but that's what I like about him. What's awesome about Henry is the stuff that he does. You want to be that guy. You want to be that guy who can take on the world and fight off the bad dudes. Kind of like Indiana Jones or James Bond. I mean, are these really super complex characters? Has any action hero ever been a super complex character? No, because they don't need to be. They're awesome. That's why we like them, and Henry is awesome, and better yet, Henry is you. But let's talk about the other characters of the movie. Well, I loved all of them too. We have the villain, and the first time we see, who, okay, well, actually back up, who has telekinesis powers, by the way, and red eyes. I mean, can you say, like, classic Bond villain MO, right? But, you know, the first time you see this guy, he's just like walking in monologue and he's flipping around a butterfly knife. Perfect. Sharlto Copley's character, Jimmy, is hilarious. I don't want to say much about him because I'll give too much of the movie away, but he is so freaking funny. Like, one of the first times, his first real conversation with Henry, he sees the wedding ring on Henry's finger and he goes, "Oh, a ring, man. You married?" And Henry, of course, just nods. He can't speak. And he goes, "How's that working out for you?" And Henry goes, and it's hilarious because Henry, he has, it's so clever, really. Like, Henry has amnesia. He can't speak. He just met this, you know, girl who says she's his wife, and now she's been kidnapped. You could say his marriage is a little on the rocks as far as he knows. Jimmy has a lot of, I guess, what I'd call phases in this movie. He has a phase where he's called the Colonel, and he's a World War II soldier, and he's just kind of like that really old, you know, hardcore, old school tough guy British man from World War II movies that you might have seen. He has a phase where he's a coked out dope fiend shooting guns akimbo with a dragon tattoo on his stomach and a leopard thong thing. He even has a freaking musical number. It's pretty great. All that being said, I just want to say that this movie and the story honestly surprised me several times. I kind of went in just thinking that it was going to be an action-packed thrill ride, but it was so much more enjoyable than that. You sit down, you start watching the movie, and you immediately understand the concept, but the story takes twists that surprise you. And isn't that kind of the definition of what a good story is? See, stories don't have to be super complex. Oftentimes, back in the day, we had very simple action films with very simple plots that were still highly enjoyable, such as Die Hard. One of the greatest action movies ever made. Which brings me to the portion of the video you've all been waiting for, where I talk about the critics of Hardcore Henry. Let me tell you something right now. There are two kinds of people who didn't like this movie. People who, one, don't like video games, and people who, two, did not want to see a first-person shooter action movie or don't like action movies in general. The people who are not going to like the movie no matter what, and I tell you right now, that is why Hardcore Henry, I came home from the theater to find that it's currently at a 49% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's really hilarious reading through the reviews, the negative ones of Hardcore Henry, because it's so clearly obvious that these people just don't get it. Speaking of retards who don't get it, I was outside the theater and there was this guy sitting there, and I was the first one there. Another guy showed up, and it was me, him, and this other dude. And I'm like, "You here for Hardcore Henry?" He was like, "Yeah, where is everybody?" I'm like, "I guess it's just me for right now, man." And this other guy sitting there, I don't know what the hell he was there to watch. He goes, well, I saw the trailer, and the movie doesn't really give you any reason to go watch it because you never see the character. I was like, honestly, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if I should interview this guy for this video or punch him in the mouth. I feel the same way about the negative reviews on Rotten Tomatoes that I'm reading through. Let's see here. Total Douche from thepacifist.com gave it a negative 1.5 stars. He says, "The only thing more irritating than this movie's lack of plot was its casual misogyny." Yes, Total Douche, it's casual misogyny. I'm sure that was the only thing you took away from your viewing experience of this movie. You and all the other people out there who feel that way about action movies in general. People out there who have died a long time ago, and their hearts and brains and creativity, but still somehow go on living. Just breathing our oxygen. Look, if you didn't like this movie, or you just didn't want to see it, that's fine. It's called an opinion. People are allowed to have them. Great. But I want to talk directly now to the action fans. People who like action movies. People who like video games. People who want to see this kind of stuff get made. Go see Hardcore Henry. Just go do it. Seriously, this was one of the coolest movies I've seen in a really long time. It's definitely way more enjoyable than the last movie I went and saw in theaters. I don't want to mention any names, but never mind. People always complain that movies don't take enough chances. That we always are given the same thing over and over and over again. Well, guess what? Isla Nayshuler and Charlton Copley and everyone else who worked on this movie, they took a chance to deliver something completely innovative and new. Maybe it was obvious. Maybe the first-person shooter movie was a long time coming, but damn it, they bit the bullet. They did it first. And let me tell you something. if you enjoy this kind of entertainment, if you want to see action movies that are rated R and not just dumbed down to PG-13 all the time for a broader audience, you're really doing your own self a disservice by not going and watching this film. Because if you wait a couple months from now till it like goes on Netflix or something, or even worse, if you just stream it illegally or download it, it just might not make it. It just might fail. Because ultimately, Hardcore Henry, as unfair as it is going to be measured by its box office success. And if we don't get out there, bromandos, and support a film like this, we might not get another one like it. Next time somebody pitches the idea for a really ballsy rated R action film that's just going to be awesome and something new and fresh and invigorating, no one's going to back it because they won't believe it can be successful. Anyways, that's my review of Hardcore Henry. This video went a lot longer than I wanted it to. I just had a lot to say. If you liked this video, I'm glad because it's the first one like it I've ever done. But I will be doing more videos like this in the future, although not all action movie reviews. You get it, whatever. Anyways, if you liked it, I want to invite you to become a bromando today by seeking that like button, destroying that subscribe button, and I'm Mike from Ration. I'll see you all again real soon for more action. Thanks.